Good morning, Unity friends. I'm so glad you've joined us this morning. I am Amy Burnett, and today we are going to be talking about the book, The Intuitive Way by Penney Pierce, and it's a guide to living from inner wisdom. So I've been pretty open about, trying to dig deeper this year, doing things like the quest and, a lot of reading. And I'll tell you that doing these Sunday morning classes really helps me stay in my practice of feeding myself with spiritual materials, because otherwise life gets busy. And as much as I want to be digging into this, and as much as the last class we talked about that this is the most important thing you can do is feeding your connection to source. So these are the ways that I help myself stay on track, is committing to sharing information with you guys on Sunday mornings. And that keeps me reading. It keeps me digging and searching for something that's meaningful. I'm really intrigued by the people who are able to, on a more consistent basis, like conscious living and really staying grounded and centered and being that peace in the storm. And so when I saw this book, The Intuitive Way, even though it was an older book, it really just struck me that that was something that I was curious about digging in deeper and seeing if there was some process or some practice that I could be doing more of so that I could strengthen my intuition and tap into that. Well, once again, as I dig in and go through, it's just the same themes keep coming up about, going to center and finding source, and that everything really comes back to your connection with source. And what are you doing to strengthen it and feed it? And how aware are you of that connection? And how open are you to hearing the messages that are trying to come through? So with this material, well, I'll go through some of the thoughts that Penny has on how you can strengthen that process. Now, I'm not interested at this point in my journey about being an intuitive for other people, doing readings, or tapping into any kind of innate ability to see things for other people. I'm really focused in on the journey for myself, but some of you may be focused on wanting to strengthen your intuition to do those other things. So just know that I kind of skimmed over some of that material in this book, but she does have an entire section on how you can strengthen those gifts and abilities within yourself as well. So if that's something you're interested in and you've never checked out this book, it might be something you want to look at. So what she starts out by saying is that intuition is an innate gift of your soul, that you can forget to pay attention to it, but you can never lose it entirely. It's something we are born with. It's part of our humanness. It is a gift of our human experience in this lifetime. And it's the process of direct knowing. And she says that's just a natural human ability. It's available to all of us, to each of us. And it's a skill that we can strengthen with practice. So it's not that people who are more intuitive, it's not that they were born with more of something than you were. It's that they have figured out how to be really in tune and in touch with those messages that are coming through from divine source and from that direct knowing. So I liked that it really is a skill. We really can hone it and pay, as our awareness grows and as our attention to those signals and signs and messages grows, that we can increase our ability to be intuitive about our own lives and the world around us. So she also says, when we find ourselves saying things like, when will I ever learn? Or I knew I should have, or something was telling me not to do that and I did it anyway, that's where we're having an experience that we probably second guessed our intuition. There was some signal, there was that little voice, there was something telling us that there was a different path that we needed to be taking, and we ignored it, or we didn't hear it at all, or we had just some faint sense that it was there, but we really didn't pay attention to it until the thing happened that we didn't want. And then it's like our awareness goes, oh, there was something telling me don't do that, or telling me to do that. And I think we've probably all had those experiences that, I don't know, before you walk out the door, you think, oh, I should grab an umbrella. And then you think, why would I grab an umbrella? They're not even I didn't hear anything about rain. And so you decide not to go back in the house and get it. And then later in the day, you're stuck in a rainstorm and you think, man, something was telling me to go back and get an umbrella. I should have listened. She also says that sometimes second guessing our intuition becomes a learned behavior, a habit. Some of us maybe were in environments like a family or a relationship or a profession where it's more valued or rewarded to do what's expected of you versus following your gut instincts or intuition. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. And what happens is, if we're not, it's just like any other muscle. If you're not flexing that muscle, if you're not using it, if you're not exercising it and strengthening it, then what happens is you kind of forget how to use it. You forget how to pay attention to it. And so we stop listening to those messages. And she says what we're doing in that process is we're unconsciously sacrificing our joy, because our intuitive messages, those little reminders or those little signs to keep us on a certain path, are a way to lead us to our greatest joy and our highest self. So when we turn off those messages and we deny them, or we refuse to pay attention, or we just don't strengthen that muscle, then we're unconsciously or sometimes consciously sacrificing joy and happiness in our life, and allowing ourselves to get kind of knocked off our path. So deciding to lean into intuition and becoming more aligned with our true selves can be scary and exciting. It's exciting to think about something leading you to your highest self. It's exciting to think about all the joy you can imagine, your cup running over with everything that you desire and what's truly in alignment with your soul. But it's also scary because it means that we have to not only trust ourselves, we have to trust that guidance, and we have to be open to the idea that there is something bigger than us that is guiding us in every moment, and that we have access to it every moment. And so while that can be really exciting, it also can feel kind of scary and unsettling. It could be because it just feels scary for us. It could be that we're in an environment where that's not really accepted. And so if you start talking about intuition or signs or little voices telling you things, you might have people in your life that aren't going to be supportive of that. And so it's scary to think that you're really going to tap in and you're going to be, boldly following that intuition. And a lot of times, people like to tell us what they think we should be doing based on their experience. And, we all are guilty of that, not realizing that someone else's experience is different, and what we think are the shoulda, coulda, wouldas maybe don't apply in their situation. And maybe they're following some message that we're not privy to. So all of that is, tied in with making a conscious choice to follow your intuition and strengthen that muscle. She says the first phase of intuition development is to create a clear lens. So her example is, if your binoculars are dirty or covered by a cap, no matter how fantastic the view, you're not going to enjoy it. You have to have a clear lens. And for your intuition to be working and fully connected, that means that you have to have a clear mind. You have to be able to clear your mind in order to connect to source and find that awareness. of divine mind. So the reality is, she says, that we're all using intuition throughout our day, and we may not even realize it because it is an innate ability that we naturally have. We're using it maybe for more primitive brain things that we're not really realizing that that's what we're doing. And that we're just not being as effective as if we were practicing using that intuition intentionally. So she says, have you ever had a dream that came true? Or were you thinking about someone moments before they called you? Did you take a different route home only to learn later that you avoided a big accident? All of those things, sometimes we chalk it up to a coincidence. Sometimes we realize after the fact, oh, maybe there was something pushing me in that direction, or we don't even realize what that sign or signal was. We just realize that's really interesting. I took a completely different route home tonight, and I really didn't even know why I was doing it when I did it. There was some part of intuition guiding you in that direction, even when you weren't paying attention to it. So that's kind of exciting and interesting for me to think about too, that it's still there. It's still guiding us, because ultimately what divine mind, what spirit wants for us is our highest good and our best self. And so even when we aren't practicing, even when we aren't paying attention and tapping into that awareness, it's still fighting to guide us in ways that are going to bring us good things. And that's comforting in a way, exciting in a way. And it really makes me realize, when I think about some of those things in my life where something happened, I did something and I couldn't even tell you why I did it, but I changed a pattern of behavior. And like I later found out that it made all the difference in something, or that, maybe there's been times where I take a different route on a whim. I don't even know why I'm going that way. And then maybe I get a call from my spouse, or I get a call from a friend who needed something, and it happens to be in the path that I'm now on. It's like there was a knowing beforehand that I needed to be going in a different direction or in a different part of town so that I could offer that assistance. And it all lines up later. So she says that intuition can be accessed for those simple, mundane daily activities, as well as huge life altering situations. And that, it doesn't really matter. It's always guiding us. And so intuition, it doesn't always have to be grand gestures. It doesn't always have to be the answer to life's most serious questions. It could seriously be an intuition about which aisle to drive down that's going to have the parking spot that's closest to the door when it's raining. It could just be as simple as that. So she lists several principles of intuition. And she says, with intuition, we know what we need to know right when we need to know it. And the universe wastes no time and no energy. That when we look at the world intuitively, the question and the answer always exist together and arise in the same instant. And I think that's something we've talked about before. There is no question that you can ask of the universe, or ask of spirit, or ask, of your inner self. There's no question that you can ask that the answer doesn't already exist at the same time. If you are thinking, if you've come up with the question, that question also is flowing from divine mind, from source, from spirit. And so the answer already exists. It's a way of, shifting your thinking into the solution or into that answer. It's the question is part of the guidance. And so those things are existing simultaneously, is what she's saying. And that intuition cuts through the normal limitations of time and space. Our consciousness can know the past and the future as if it were right now. And, there's so much work out there that is on being in the now moment, that the only moment that truly exists is the now moment. Knowing that what we are dreaming now has already happened, and, it's all connected. So She views the intuitive process as a way of living, a way of aligning ourselves with what's truly real, and that it's strengthened as we become more connected to the allness of God. And she says the three most common ways that we experience our intuition, she calls it the three V's. So the first is vision, and that could be a dream where there's a reoccurring theme, there's a reoccurring character, there's a reoccurring emotion, something. It could be a single dream too, or it could be that you keep having dreams with the same imagery in it, or it could be an image that comes to mind when you think of something. It could be an image that you encounter. She tells a story in the book about a journey she was taking, and she kept encountering, at first it was visions of the luck dragon, and then it also was she would encounter snakes in different places that she was, and different, as she would be thinking or contemplating or questioning something, and she would see an image of a snake, or sometimes it was an actual live snake, and that triggered her to think about the luck dragon, and it was a whole sign for her about a path that she was supposed to be on. The second V is voice. And so that can come through as that little voice that we hear in our heads telling us, oh, you should do this, or is that really what you want to do? Sometimes it can actually be a sound that we hear. She talked about people hearing like a knock on the door and going to the door and there's no one there. But in the process of going to the door, they see something else or encounter something, or an idea comes. Sometimes it could be a different sound that is associated with a certain thought or a certain path that you recognize, that you always hear this certain sound. It could also be lyrics to a song. How many times have maybe gotten in the car and turned on the radio and the song just speaks to you? Or maybe you're walking through a store and you're not even paying attention to the music that's going overhead, and then all of a sudden it kind of filters into your brain and you realize that it's a song that you've been hearing, or the lyric feels like it's speaking directly to you in that moment, or whatever you were thinking about. And the third V is vibration. So that's just energy that you feel in some way. She talked about, people getting a cold chill when something is either right or wrong, getting the goosebumpy feeling, or having that shiver run down your spine. She also talked about being drawn to an object or a person. So just feeling a vibrational energy that makes you want to be around someone or something, or draws you in a direction. And that we often experience our intuition through our five senses. And we might have a mode that we're more aware of or we pay closer attention to. So just like with anything else, we have our favorites, or we have the thing that we pay closer attention to than we do others. And so maybe one of those three V's, one of those modes that we just talked about, is the one that you really pay attention to. Maybe you're really a song person, and so those song lyrics are the biggest thing that you recognize throughout, making decisions, or when you're looking for guidance about something. So in Unity teachings, we often talk about the subconscious, the conscious, and the superconscious mind, with the superconscious mind being our connection to spirit or divine mind. And so she discusses that our intuition, she feels like it can be fed from two sources, that it can be fed from the subconscious mind, which is often preoccupied with fear. And that's that primitive need for survival. And so those are those things that I said, that sometimes our intuition is working in little ways that we don't even realize, that it's steering us clear of things that we perceive as unsafe or uncomfortable, or it's steering us towards things that are going to make us feel good or make us happy. But it's more that primitive need for survival, just I want to avoid pain and I want to go towards pleasure and comfort. And it's really operating on a fear-based system of that kind of avoiding the bad thing. And that, so she says that's what often gets fed from the subconscious mind. Our superconscious mind is, of course, focused on love, and that's always guiding us towards authenticity and spiritual enlightenment. So we're reminded that while we're seeking, first, before I say that, so when we are strengthening our intuition, she really suggests getting in touch with that superconscious mind, that we want our intuitive messages to be coming from that place of love and guidance. And we really want to work on becoming aware of when we are connected to that source, and that's where those messages are coming from, versus that subconscious place. We're also, she reminds us that while we're seeking greater connection to superconscious mind, it's very common for old beliefs and patterns of the subconscious mind to surface. So as we're working to clear those beliefs that are no longer serving us and allowing us to grow, we're starting to gain greater and greater clarity and align more strongly with divine love. And so just that reminder that things are going to come up. And just when you think all your stuff has come up, something else will come up and trigger. And so she's just reminding us that that's part of the process, that even when you start strengthening your intuition and you're becoming aware, there's going to be those things that bubble up from the subconscious. And so really learning how to discern where it's coming from and, whether or not it's serving you. So she talks about a regular practice of focusing on our mind, body, spirit connection, and that we can do that through meditation. We can do that through yoga, sitting in nature will put us more in touch with our intuitive selves. And kind of going back to that subconscious and superconscious, there's always the question is, how do we decipher the signals? What if we get it wrong? And so she addresses that by saying, the body's language, she says it's a binary system. Like it's going to tell you a yes or a no. It's going to give you that is true and authentic, or that is not. And so really learning what those signals feel like for you. So she talks about, some people talk about when something is true, that feels like warmth spreading through their body, or they feel that sense of peace come over them. They might feel energy bubbling up, and they just know like that buzz, that zeal is coming through, and they know this is the true, this is, the message. And that just really being able to, when you feel that message, to say, does this feel like it's coming from a place of love? And is it coming from truth? And focusing in there. And she says, when something is not true for you, your body will try to withdraw or back away. You might have feelings of anxiety. You might actually, hear a gong in your head, like, nope, that's not where we should be. And just making sure that we're paying attention to that and we're making the most authentic choices that we can make. And she says, you're going to get it wrong, especially as we're strengthening that muscle. There's going to be times that you think that it's intuition telling you this is the positive path, and maybe you were off the mark. Maybe it was coming from that subconscious place of fear and avoidance, but it felt like it was, or you convince yourself it's coming from love, or that's what you wanted it to be. Just honor that when it happens and recognize that you misinterpreted a signal. And, the next time you make that choice or choose to listen, you'll be more discerning about whether or not that's truly coming from the superconscious mind and from that place of authentic love. And she says, the more you validate your body's answers by acting on its information, the more your body will trust your conscious mind, and the more easily it will become to get future guidance. So if we one time we get it wrong and then we say, oh man, my intuitive connection is not good. I got it wrong. I thought this is the direction I was supposed to be going, and it really wasn't, or it didn't work out the way I wanted. And then we just stop listening to those voices. Then there's no trust there within our, inner guidance system that we're going to listen. And so she just says, keep validating that experience and keep practicing and learning how to pay attention earlier and earlier in those signals. And that we have to become sensitive to our body signals. And she actually has a sensitivity scale of how she feels, kind of how she put it into tangible things. So she says that like the first is like a vibration, the resonance, the instinctual urge. So, and with this sensitivity scale, her goal, what she says our goal should be, is that maybe right now we don't clue in to the signal. We don't hear the message until it gets pretty escalated. And so the goal is just to keep paying attention so that we feel that much earlier each time. And so that eventually we would be so in tune with those intuitive messages that we would feel the slightest vibration. We would be able to feel that energy differently, that resonance, that instinctual urge, and we would be trusting enough of that message that we would take action at that point instead of waiting for a later message. She said next is the things that are like heebie-jeebies, where it's not just the simple vibration. It is the cold chills, or feeling cold and clammy all of a sudden, or getting the creeped out feeling is a little bit stronger. Then there's the sensory information. So we're actually getting other sensory stimuli. Emotions. So, it's the emotions would be the response to the intuitive feeling that we hadn't paid attention to in those early stages. And then it creates those other feelings that are trying to come forth and show us something. Then physical tension or stress or addictive behavior. So our physical body starts acting out in ways to say, hello, I'm trying to tell you something. Your connection is trying to tell you something. Please pay attention. Then comes physical pain. So it's upping the ante. Our body is, our body is this magnificent thing that we've been blessed with. And so she's saying that, in this process of following your intuitive voice, your body is trying to give you all of these messages about following your true path and getting in touch with body, mind, spirit. And so it's just going to keep getting louder and louder when we don't listen. After that comes things like illness and disease, trauma, depression. And then she says, ultimately, if we just completely fail to listen to any kind of intuition, it could actually result in death because we're not paying attention to a message. I know some people probably feel differently about that. I felt kind of, I don't know. I don't know if that resonated with me to say that, not following your intuition would be the reason for a death, because, I feel like there's reasons people leave this earthly plane for lots of different reasons. And I don't know it's because they failed to listen to their intuition, but she's saying you could put yourself in a situation where your body is shutting down or not able to up the ante anymore. That's the ultimate, I guess, is what she's saying. But so that kind of made sense that, and there's maybe, again, just like there's favorite ways that you pay attention to your intuition, there's also, I think, different situations where we're more inclined to pay attention to intuition. And maybe we do trust those little vibration feelings in certain circumstances, but in others, we have to wait for our body to be, our body and our consciousness to be screaming, hey, please listen. I have a message for you. I've been trying to tell you this whole time. So, like I said, the goal is to become more sensitive to those messages and pay attention at an earlier stage so that you can not, spend all that time ignoring and taking action that aren't serving your highest good. That if you're really in tune and you can pick up on those vibrations the moment they happen, or very quick, those very early stages, then you're able to ask the questions and be guided along the path, getting to the next right thing and the next right thing and the next right thing much faster. And that she goes on to talk about obtaining that superconscious guidance and remembering that it is always marked by love and truth, and it is always empowering. So those are the kind of the feelings, the vibrations that should be going along with guidance that is coming from your superconscious mind. So she says, if you're really trying to, let's say you're wrestling with a problem, or you're really wanting guidance for something, and you want to try to tap into that intuition, that you can go through a process of trying to tap in to that superconscious guidance. And so it's really, kind of a meditative process. So she says, relax your body, give full attention to the cycles that are going on in your body, how, the messages that are coming through. Become alert and aware to everything that's not only going on in your body, but start to expand that out away from your body and have an awareness of your space. And that over time, you can even learn to extend that outward as you're practicing this, that you would align with the awareness that you are connected to the superconscious, and be fully present in your body. Attune yourself. So really, identify yourself with the soul of who you are, not the physical human being that you are, but the who essence of who you are. To focus on the need. So focus on what area of your life that you are, seeking guidance about. And then you have to ask. And she talks about asking, and it's so interesting because we as a church board just did the Michael Bernard Beckwith life visioning exercise again. And he talked about this too, that you have to ask good questions. You don't want to ask yes, no questions. You don't want to ask questions that are going to give you answers that are not serving you. So one of Michael's questions was, why does this keep happening to me? Well, then the universe is going to answer the question that you asked. And so if you ask, why does this keep happening to me? You're going to start getting answers that reinforce why bad things are happening to you, or why things are happening that you don't want. But if you instead ask the question, who do I need to become to, follow my highest good? Or what do I need to release in order to reach this goal? Those are questions that are going to actually be a magnet for the types of answers that you're wanting. And they're going to create that energetic magnet where divine mind, where spirit, where your connection is saying, oh yes, let's answer that question. That's a wonderful question to come from truth and authenticity about. Then we have to release. We have to trust that we will be guided. We can't try to force it. We can't dictate the how. We have to release and allow the flow. And then we have to consciously recognize the answer. So, I know Sue has told the story before of the person that's in the flood, and they're sitting on the roof as the water's rising, and a boat comes by and, says, the person in the boat says, jump in, we'll rescue you. And the person says, no, I'm waiting for God to rescue me. And then maybe another boat comes by and same thing. And then a helicopter comes by and same thing. And the person says no to all and goes to the afterlife and says, God, I was waiting there for you to save me. And God says, I sent 2 boats and a helicopter. So we have to consciously pay attention to those things, recognizing that the answer is coming to us and that sometimes it doesn't look the way we expected, but it doesn't make it any less valid. And that we have to, she says you should record the answer, do something physical with it, write it down, tape record it, speak it out loud, even if it's just to yourself, because that makes it more real. And you can, it's less fleeting. You can really like hold on to it when you, record it in some way, make it physical. And then she says you should feel gratitude, always ending with a feeling of gratitude for that connection and for the answer that came and the availability of truth always that is there waiting for you. And, a lot of this, it made me think about kind of tuning an instrument, which I'm not a musician, but I know people, talk about tuning their instrument and that they learn that individual instrument. And so they can tune it very easily, but maybe someone else picking it up would, do it differently. They wouldn't feel what it feels like when it's exactly in tune, or they wouldn't hear when it clicks exactly in tune. Or I think about an example that I have that I feel more connected to is like a vehicle that you drive every day. And so like even kind of subconsciously, how that vehicle sounds, how it handles, how it feels when you push the brake, how it feels when you turn the wheel. You just intuitively, how that car runs, and that you are much more likely to notice a subtle change in how your car is behaving than someone who never drives it. And so I think sometimes that's when, we take the car to the mechanic and the mechanic goes, I don't know, but we know that something is different. And it's because maybe we've caught it really early because we're so in tune with the subtle messages that car is giving us. And so that's what we need to do with our own bodies, is get so in tune with those subtle messages that we're the first to notice, and it doesn't have to scream at us, and that we trust it. And we trust ourselves to follow it. And we know and trust ourselves to be guided. So today I would like to end with a meditation. And she has a meditation in here that is, she calls it practicing the God's eye view. And it's really about focusing in on that mind, body, spirit connection. So if you feel comfortable doing so, I would suggest that you sit quietly, that you close your eyes, begin to focus into the center of your head and pull your energy inside your skin. Breathe regularly. Be aware that you are in the here and now. Imagine a being of shiny diamond light standing behind you. Invite it in, and as you do, feel it gently penetrate you, melting into your energy. As it fills you, tension dissolves and you feel fresh and new. Imagine that this being is your divine self, the self of infinite wisdom. You are now sharing your reality with it. Scan your body and personality, dedicating each part to the divine being. Feel it fully as you say, my feet are God's feet. Let Spirit show me how to take a stand in this world, how to make contact with the earth. May I transmit divine energy into this planet. My legs are divine legs. Let the Creator show me how to move forward in my life and where to go. May I carry forward the divine intent into this world. My emotions are Spirit's emotions. May God show me how to feel. May I be the vehicle to share divine feeling with others. My stomach is a divine stomach. May I eat and be nurtured by whatever Spirit brings to me. May I honor all food that I am given. My vitality and power is divine power. May Spirit show me how to express it and where to apply it so that I influence others as God would have it. My heart is a divine heart. May I know compassion as the Creator knows compassion. May I extend divine balance and understanding to others. My hands and arms are Spirit's hands and arms. Let the Creator show me how to reach out and when to help. Let me use these hands creatively. My voice is Source's voice. May I be shown how to speak with truth and beauty, how to communicate what God wants me to say. My ears are divine ears. May I hear the world the way Spirit would hear it. May I understand the real messages coming to me from others. My eyes are divine eyes. Let God show me what to see and help me to see it fully. Let the Creator see the world through me. My mind is Source's mind. May I be shown a way to perceive, a way to make choices, a way to release thoughts that are no longer serving me. Let Spirit perceive the world through me and teach me how to know Spirit's true connection. As you open your eyes and come back into this now moment, I say, I hope you have a wonderful week and namaste.